It is the month of September. This is the month in which in the country we celebrate heritage and tourism. It is Tourism and Heritage Month. In the African calendar, it is also the beginning of the new year. This is the month in which the flowers are blossoming, the month in which we welcome spring, and we are also welcoming positive energy. My name is Baba Gauteng, your champion host. Welcome to this another edition of Gauteng Lifve, your premier platform where we discuss everything about the visitor economy, everything about tourism, the creative sector, and how they interface to propel our country's economy forward. In this segment, I am joined by my friend, dear colleague, substantively, he is the chief back in his home village. There, that is why you see me wearing a hat to pay homage to the chief. But he is also the chief of tourism in his businesses in his own right. CEO of Tourism Business Council of South Africa. Tshifhiwa, thank you very much for coming through to Gauteng Live.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I must say, this is my first podcast.
Wow.
As much as I do a lot of
talking,
interviews, already interviews, this is the first time I do a podcast. So thank you for having me.
You got it right here at Gauteng Live. We are breaking the barriers. We are thrilled that Tshifhiwa is coming in here for his first podcast, and we got the privilege of having him in studio. Tshifhiwa, let's get into it. So you are sitting in your home village, probably secondary school. You are planning, and you are looking at, the prospects of now furthering your studies. Back then, you are also being told, hey, you are old, chief, you must go work and repay everything that we have invested in you. And here is the thinking of, moving to Johannesburg. Are you able to recall what was going through your mind, and then your anticipation of the city of Johannesburg and this golden province of Gauteng?
Yeah, I remember that very, very well. Being a young man, coming out of the villages up north, far north, in Venda. And I remember getting my results for grade 12 and saying, what am I going to do and where am I going to go?
Yeah.
And I remember that trip, on a bus. I think then it used to be called the railway bus.
Oh, yes.
Arriving in...
It has many stops there.
Exactly.
Kept collecting everyone going in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Before these roads that we have were as big as they are.
Yeah.
So I remember coming in, arriving in Tembisa. I think we got off at Oakmore Station.
Okay.
And then we stayed in Tembisa at a section called Moto Section. I was with, a cousin of mine or a relative who said to me, hey, come, let's go to school, man. I'll show you where you're going to go to school.
Yeah.
And then, arrived, stayed there was a room or a shack behind the house that one of his, I think, brother-in-law was renting.
Yes.
So we stayed there. And I remember the next day we took a train.
Now from Tembisa.
From Tembisa.
Yeah.
All the way to Doornfontein.
Yeah.
And then we went to Westtech.
Yeah.
Then he said, you got to come register.
Register here.
And,
That was a posh place back then. Westtech in Eliamabujo, bro. Yeah.
Westtech was, it was the place to be.
The place, yeah.
You talk about the techs,
Absolutely.
Westtech, Pretoria Tech.
TNT, Pentech, all those.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, arriving there, and I didn't know what I wanted to study.
Yeah.
Back then the career guidance thing was not
non-existent.
Was non-existent. So I remember arriving and saying, well, it was a little bit late. So okay, what's left to study?
Yeah.
So we arrive and what Doornfontein, they say no, go to Auckland Park.
Or the other campus.
Yeah. Then we walk through.
Yeah.
From Doornfontein
now.
Crisscross.
And this is a journey come to Joburg.
Exactly.
First time ever in Joburg. Now you're walking the streets.
And remember, we come from the village. We're used to this stuff.
Yeah.
So we walked through, arrived there. There was courses that were still open.
Okay.
So, tourism was there. I said, this tourism. Yeah, that's what I'm going to study.
Yeah.
and then fill in the papers, pay the little amount of money. Then it was little to do the registration.
Yeah.
And then they said, no, you must come and write psychometric test.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what that was.
What that was? That time you've passed your matric.
I'm like, why do I need to write more stuff? So I went and wrote the psychometric test.
Yeah.
And then I had to go back to the village to wait. I had to wait for about 2 weeks. So I came back after 2 weeks. And I left like I was accepted already.
Yes, yeah.
Packed my one bag.
Yeah.
Didn't exactly know where I was going to stay, but by that time my sister had finished and she was staying in Soweto in Pimville Zone 4.
Okay.
So there was a room there, but it was taken. But they said, no, come through.
Come through, we'll make a plan.
So went to school, check, passed the psychometric test.
You are in now.
I'm in, had to pay a little bit of money. Called the old man, hey, they need a little bit of money.
Yeah, now it's proper registration fee.
Proper registration. I'm going to stay in Soweto and I'm going to take the train from, Pimville. Which is where the center is now.
The Pimville Square.
The Pimville Square is. Yeah. And then, I got to learn about the train, and I took the train, Auckland Park, started.
And you see, so you have always been in this tourism business, from the word go. So you stayed in Tembisa at a big room that could easily be an Airbnb facility, that get organized, and then you now moved to another township. You use the train, and generally that's how people and tourists, commit. You move from one place to another. You use a means of transport. And that Tshifhiwa now actually welcomed you, and now you see this. You get in, you get to meet other students. You were in an Auckland Park campus, and actually not far from the SABC, and that's how that campus, probably also gain, familiarity. So your now interaction with not only the university community, but the community around in this bustling and hustling, where the lights are there. I guess some of the persons you saw on televisions are now moving around, coming into Veshocheka and everything.
No, absolutely. It was quite interesting, arriving there. And, seeing the guys coming from, SABC,
yes,
especially the metro guys.
I think
Glenn Lewis, I remember, I think he used to drive an Audi A4 then, something like that. Then they will stop there because Bunting Road used to be open to public. So, you will meet guys. And I remember even when YFM was started.
Yes, yeah.
We were there. The likes of Fresh and others.
Kabzela.
They used to come, Kabzela.
Yeah.
They used to, for Joe, they used to come to the campus. And then we'll have this thing during the day. That's where we start to learn about entertainment. That, there's this whole world out there.
Yeah.
That we never knew, when we were growing up, up north. And you get to learn about the city and many things that we never knew. We didn't even know what a computer looked like.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff, some of us, it was like baptism by fire. And Josie, it's one of those places where you're either in or you're out.
Yeah.
And I always say to the guys, when you're in, be in.
Yeah. Wholeheartedly.
Wholeheartedly. So you get to learn Soweto. So I lived in Soweto for quite some time. Probably 2 years of my studies, staying in the back room in Soweto. I stayed in between. I also stayed in town.
Okay.
I stayed by Nord.
Okay.
Close to the taxi rank. There's next to Jobert Park there, with some of the guys who were coming from home. So I could learn about the city. We used to walk through the city. We used to Braamfontein, all the places around here. We got to be familiar with the city. But it's a fantastic city, and it's a place where, some of us, our struggles for higher education, we build and shape in the streets. Yeah.
And then how that, I guess, your struggles, your toils and tribulations, and that interface with, meeting different cultures, different personalities, and being able to use different modes of transport, being able to walk. Will you say that also shape your outlook now later on in your professional tourism years, where you have to go to different cities, you have to meet different people, different organizations, different cultures, did that orientation in the city builds almost like a soft landing for you as you are now exercising your tourism business work?
Yeah, it definitely did.
Yeah.
I take Joburg as a base.
Yeah.
And where you sort of learn to be resilient. And I remember when I started to work, in the tourism, industry, I worked in Four Ways.
Okay.
And by then I was living in Braamfontein,
yeah.
on Smith Street, not far from where our train is.
Yeah.
And, you start to learn more and more about the industry, and then you start to learn, about the value chain of the industry.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always had was that you got to have ambition, and that ambition will drive you forward. So the base of Joburg and meeting many people from different cultures, because remember, when you grow up in Venda, you only meet Venda and Tsonga speaking people.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it.
And then coming here, when you meet everybody else, the language that you used to hear on TV, now it's real. There are people that you can associate with, people you can be friends with, and people that, even when I stayed at the RAS, you start to become friends with, and you start to learn more about each other, and you grow up. And it provided a good soft landing. When I had an opportunity to work in Los Angeles, for a company that was doing work in the tourism industry, and subsequently worked in New York. So when you have the base of Joburg, whether you're in New York City, whether you're in Los Angeles or any other city, you will survive. Actually, it's a soft landing. Those cities are not. Joburg is a melting pot.
And I guess this now takes us to where you are now. Presiding over the Tourism Business Council of South Africa as the CEO, having grown through the ranks, worked in Four Ways, worked overseas, further your studies, and also get to see the own work experience out of the country. Tourism Business Council of South Africa, what do you do? Councils in different sectors do different works. There are councils that are regulating, there are councils that are propagating, there are councils that we don't know whether Agidi Union or are they just a pressure group, or there are councils that are formed to address a cause or address an immediate issue, and when that issue gets addressed, you don't know now what's the way forward because they were responding to a cause. In a nutshell, the work of Tourism Business Council of South Africa, what is it and how does it interface with anyone watching or listening with us that might be interested in this tourism business value chain?
Yeah. So the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, it's an amalgamation of all the associations that represent specific value chains.
Okay.
You're going to have those that represent travel agents, those that represent inbound, car rentals, hunting, accommodation of various types, big and small, and the list goes on and on and on. So it's an amalgamation of those associations that would otherwise they deal with specific issues in their specific segment. They come together at the TBCSA so that we can have a unified voice to deal with issues that are critical for the tourism industry. In other words, the issues that we deal with are usually the bigger issues that in the main associations alone may not be able to solve.
Okay.
So part of the work that we do, it's advocacy.
Okay.
There's always going to be issues around policy that needs a collective approach to make sure that we solve those issues. Because otherwise, if we have too many voices trying to solve policy matters, it can become a little bit too noisy, and we may not be able to solve the situation on time. So the TBCSA takes all those issues and make sure that we are able to solve those issues. So advocacy is very big on the policy side, and also advocacy on the marketing side, destination marketing side. How do we make sure that we are doing adequate marketing to ensure that the businesses that we have on the ground are able to take advantage
create demand for these businesses.
Exactly.
Okay.
How do we create that demand so that they can create employment on the other side, impact the economy? So that's very important. So our advocacy also goes to the destination marketing side of things. Those two things are the critical part of what we do.
Okay.
The marketing side of the destination, both international and domestic, advocacy on policy issues or regulations, or whether it's proactive or preemptive, we've got to do work as time goes.
Okay.
And that's what, in the main, you will sort of focus on. And of course, on the other side, we also run the tourism marketing South Africa, which is TMSA, that collects the levy. And that was born out of the TBCSA, as much as it's an independent company, but there's a lot of work that we need to do from that part to make sure that all the levy collectors see value in the levies that are collected. And lately, there is more work that we do.
Okay.
We do more work when there are gaps that are obvious that other institutions are supposed to do.
Yeah.
We need to step in and do that work to make sure that the industry does not suffer.
Okay.
So there are many things that we will be getting involved in going forward. We did the Travanoa campaign as an example.
Yeah, we'll come to that. Yeah,
we saw some of the gaps. So when there are gaps in the industry, our job is to make sure that we close the gap, because ultimately is to ensure that the trading environment for the businesses is conducive. And the businesses are able to do what they're supposed to do. Then when we go to government, we're able to say, these are the things that we've done from our side, and these are the things we need you to improve.
Yeah, join us on this.
Exactly. It could be safety and security. It could be issues of aviation. We need to improve on aviation. Destination marketing, I spoke about it. Issues of employment,
quality
skills,
standards, maybe.
Quality standards.
Yeah.
We are involved in those type of things.
That's a mouthful, and that's a lot. And I guess also being in an amalgamation of different pressure groups and subsectors, that brings also a lot into the table. So at what point do you then sift out? So I guess the car rental issues will then say this, the e-hailing guys will have their own challenges. While you are dealing with the e-hailing guys, the tour operator says we're not getting the permits. The Department of Transport is not signing off the permits. The taxi industries, which might not necessarily be your membership or constituency, will then say we are also able to transport people from point A to point B. Why are we not in the loophole? That's what we do every day. So at what point do you then sift out, or probably thematically start putting up these issues, so that you don't become reactive and issue based? Like every time the tour operator says this, you go and advocate, you come back, you listen, you almost become a post office that transmit. At what point do you then aggregate these issues thematically, so that when you engage with whoever, whether it's government, whether it's legislatures that makes legislation, this goes in a much more thematic and high impact manner?
Yeah. You see, what's very critical is prioritizing issues.
Okay.
And in order to prioritize issues, one needs to understand what's going on across everybody.
100.
And that takes a lot of work from our side, especially from my side, because my job entails understanding what's going on everywhere.
Yeah.
And once you understand what's going on everywhere, you're able to say whether the issues that you're seeing in Mpumalanga or in this sector also speaks to other issues that you're seeing in other sectors.
Absolutely.
Then you start to see the picture starts to emerge. And you start to realize that there may be similar problems that may have a slight variation, from each, subsector or from each segment, that one can say, okay, now this is the bigger problem that we need to deal with.
Yeah.
So sitting down with everyone and understanding the issues on the table, whether it's an issue of short-term rental, of which, they've started an association, the Short-Term Rental Association, whether it's issues around transport, it could be Uber, it could be car rental space. You start to understand what are the issues that affects everyone. And then you start to string these issues and say, what is a big issue here?
Yeah.
And, sometimes we find that the big issue is regulation. But what type of regulation?
Regulation is required.
How do we then solve it? And who do we need to work with to solve this issue? Because if we're able to solve this, this one will follow.
Yeah.
So for example, if you're able to solve the issue of permits for transport, tourism transport vehicles, you can take the same type of, way to solve it and apply it on visas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you can take the same type and apply it on other legislation in order to advance certain things. Because once you have implemented it in one government department and you take the modality that you use to implement, you are able to take it to another department and say, we use this modality.
Yeah.
Can we implement it here? Ultimately, you got to work with the presidency.
Absolutely.
The red tape reduction team. Make sure that, you're on board, and also work with the bigger industry players like your business unit in South Africa, so that we're able to feed into those issues. Because you may find that the issue that we have in tourism is happening in automotive.
Yes.
But in a different way. Or it's happening in agriculture or many other sectors that we have.
Yeah.
How do we then advocate and how do we prioritize? And through BUSA, you're able to say, what are the key things that we need to do?
Yeah. And I guess, Tshifhiwa, for me, that's a better way, because once you look at stuff sectoral, because by nature, tourism is sectoral. And how then does that sectoral ecosystem get organized to punch heavy in another layer, which is also sectoral? So if you are dealing with transport, even in transport on its own, there's aviation. And then there's the taxis, and then there's the e-hailing, and the like. Therefore, your advocacy work within the transport space it needs to be coherent in a manner that serves the entire tourism ecosystem. And then now there is the accommodation guys that says. We are unable to get our backroom houses in the townships accredited to provide Airbnb capabilities that we were talking about. You can imagine if you were we were in Sharpeville earlier in March, and there's one street there where the massacre happened at the end of the street by the police station. But in that street is the only street that is very broad. And we're told actually the colors and the whites lived in this other side, and the black people lived in this other side. And you were actually not allowed to cross. And I was saying to the team, so you can imagine, and it's not a lot of houses. If those, the tourism association, they decide to paint all those houses in the color of the South African flag at the top, an aerial view of that street just says there's something. There's something here. You can imagine at Vilakazi streets, within the process of backyard real estate. If I am unable to get into a guest house, I'm able to book into a back room. And there's so many back rooms that gets formalized into an Airbnb type of a thing. But they will then say, the regulation says here you can't run a business in the township. It's a place of sleeping. Therefore, then you get involved in the housing business.
Absolutely.
Do they say, but what do you want here? You are in tourism.
Nah, you see, tourism is everywhere.
Okay.
That's the thing that I always say to the guys.
Yeah.
If you look at the G20, I always say everything about G20 is tourism.
Yeah.
Other than the discussions,
yes,
the words that they speak, everything, the mics, everything, it's tourism.
Absolutely.
So tourism is everywhere. And I think one of the things that we have to do is to deconstruct tourism from how we understand it.
Yeah.
Because we understand it in a formal way that we were taught at school or that we've seen as we join the industry.
Yeah.
And when we understand it in that formal way, we sort of don't look at the spaces that we have as potential experiences, to drive economic growth through tourism.
And products.
So it's very important that whatever we look at, whether it's a small town, we need to look at the street and say, how do we turn this street into an entertainment zone? How do we turn this street into, a street food zone? A street where people would, to sleep around here because this is going to be a fun street. Hey, you go to other. I once went to Laos in a town called Luang Prabang.
Mm-hmm.
It's the north part of Laos, next to Mekong River. And in the evening, what they do, they close the street.
Yeah.
People cook food in their houses.
Yeah.
And then you go to the street, and some of the food is very fresh.
Yeah.
Vegetables, fish from the river. And then you buy your food on the street.
Yeah.
And you sit there and you eat with the monks and everybody else. And then, you get to enjoy the culture. So,
and nobody goes home hungry there.
Exactly.
Because the food is communal.
It's communal, but it's part of that experience. So similar type of things. So we need to deconstruct this thing and say, okay, what are we going to do in our townships? Instead of only looking at it and saying, we're going to get people coming in and people leaving.
Yeah.
We need to start to change the narrative. So I like what I'm seeing happening, in many of our townships where we're owning up and saying, we're going to have Disofeng.
Yeah.
As an example, there by, close to Midlands area there. That's what we need to do. And we must love those spaces because tourists are going to come and say, we want to experience what you experience.
Yeah. So
we need to look at those streets, Villa Casa Street. What else are we going to do there?
Absolutely.
How else do we turn that street into an even more powerful economic, street? How do we turn some of those streets in Mamelodi as an example? And many other places around the country. But if you look at the amount of townships and experiences that we have, within, the Gauteng area as an example, I think it's rich. The province is rich. It's a melting pot. We just need to be intentional about changing some of those streets and making them what they need to be. Look at, Newtown.
Yeah.
I used to walk past here, coming down. Then it was called Bree Street, crossing over Plaza, climbing onto the train station and going into Auckland Park.
Yeah.
And you look at the development that came here, and the economic impact that came here. And if you look at Soweto, even Soweto itself, when we lived there, if you want to buy food, you have to go to, is it the Mall of the Southgate?
Oh, Southgate.
So you had to go to Southgate to buy groceries because there was no Maponya Mall and there were not many big shops around there. Yeah. So you look at how we have recreated the townships, even outside of the tourism, specific zone. But tourism benefits from those type of things, from transport to tours to everything else that comes with it. But I think that we actually have to deconstruct it, look at the spaces that we have, whether it's a village, whether it's Orange Farm, whether it's, what you mentioned there in Sharpeville. How do we change those spaces? How do we make them? How do we create events that will draw people, to those spaces? And how do we make sure that, we get funding to turn those spaces into economic zones? Long-term look into it, and the return on investment is clear when it comes to tourism.
Before we go to the short ad break, how do you, and to those that says there's a narrow and how, for example, an organization of like yours, TBCSA's work and classify tourism businesses. There's just too much concentration on traditional big tourism businesses, hotel chain groups, amusement parks, the stuff that ultimately, formally, you are able to generate a levy, even if it's optional. And the little guy on the street, the little fellow who sells souvenirs, who sells Solomon Mahlangu t-shirts in Mamelodi at the memorial, it's not regarded as business.
Yeah.
So at what point do you interface with, I know it might be difficult to interface with a direct business because you are an amalgamation of associations. Therefore, they might have to organize themselves into the business. But your guidance message to them that they are in all these hubs.
Yeah.
They are running their own businesses and they feel they are left out of the tourism business ecosystem classification. And they are making ends meet out of the tourism sector. But when the dividends are shared, they are left out.
Now, you're making a very critical point. The informal side of tourism.
Yes.
We got to protect the first stream of tourism, which is the known.
Yeah.
All the big hotels and the big stuff that we call tourism that puts bread on the table. We got to protect that. That's our first stream. But we got to develop the second stream.
Yeah.
And the second stream comes with the so-called informal businesses. If you look, at many places and you see, you go to Vilakazi Street as an example, you see the traders on the side of the streets.
Yes.
And then you go to other places in and around the province of Gauteng and even outside. People who sell things at the beach, who makes the beach what it's supposed to be. People sell ice cream at events and things like that. So we've got to look at that and say, how do we then, while we defend and maintain the mainstream as our bread and butter, how do we make sure that the second stream is coming up? Because it's bubbling.
Yeah.
But are we doing enough to help it to bubble further up so that it can start to show? Are we creating enough spaces for those businesses, to trade?
Yeah.
So when you have these informal businesses, they thrive, when we do events. You have events, you put it out there, you say, come and do business, exhibit, showcase what you're doing. That's how they're going to bubble up. But we need to do more. What is the more? And how do we develop that second stream and make sure that the second stream is as competitive and as compelling towards the first stream, so that the first stream can feed the second stream as well? Because we've seen that when you start to do the shared type of a thing, where the first stream is saying, well, we have all these experiences that we already know. Yeah. What's new? There was a time when we were doing a road show, I think we were in Europe, and people were saying, yeah, we know South Africa, but what's new? Yeah. How do you make sure that the repeat travelers come in?
Being over and over.
Exactly. That second stream must bubble. Whether it's from accommodation, whether it's people who are doing new experiences, whether it's township tourism, whether it's village tourism, it must bubble and we must support it.
Absolutely. That is a part, especially on tourism leadership, which we will reflect on. There used to be a project when I joined the sector, and I think it was led by one of the chain hotels at Tshifhiwa, adopt a guest house. And I guess for me, that was an example of a big tourism business that looks at a guest house and create almost similar and seamless norms and standard and service standard. And this hotel adopting the guest houses that are around. And I thought that was a fantastic process of getting those that are said to be in the second layer into the first layer, or creating quality and exceptional service offering even in the second layer, so that we are able to still have that authenticity, not swallowed by the hotel, but will reflect more as we come back from the ad break. Welcome back to Gauteng Lifve, where we reflect everything the visitor economy. I'm still joined by my guest, CEO of Tourism Business Council, Tshifhiwa. Tshifhiwa, we were talking about tourism leadership. And for me, it was the leadership around growing the second base, where we were talking about guest houses, where we were talking about somebody selling in the streets, where we were talking about vendors that are selling attractions, and also not every space have that, I guess, equally. While we want to move this to the second level, even this to the first level, even the second level is not equitable. For example, I go to the Union buildings, now declared the World Heritage Site as part of the Mandela Legacy World Heritage Sites. I still can't buy anything written or showcasing the Union buildings. Unlike at the White House, where I can get a coffee mug, where I can get a T-shirt, I can actually go into the Union buildings, past the biggest statue of Nelson Mandela in the world, and get into the Union buildings before I'm stopped right at the gate. which I can't do at the White House because there is a fence.
Yes.
So you interact with the White House throughout the fence. But the entrepreneurship work that gets done there showcases the specific ones. I guess there lies a gap on what else could be done. But how do we exert tourism leadership in a manner in which small business departments, your CFAs and CEDAs of this world, your Gauteng enterprise propellers of this world, also understands that somebody who has a business proposition of building memorabilia that showcases the union buildings is in strategy.
Yeah.
And that could be part of what gets resourced. And how then do you apply your advocacy role in whatever forums that you are meeting as the TBCSA to some of these funding agencies to assist you to level the playing field?
Yeah, I think that's very critical. And you've made a very good example. You know, you go to the White House, there's a lot of stuff that you can buy, memorabilia. Yeah. You go to London, a lot of stuff you can buy, whether it's London Bridge or
the red bars, the phone,
exactly.
Yeah.
So you have all those stuff. You go to Las Vegas, you want to come back with a T-shirt that says Las Vegas. You go to New York, you want a cap that says New York. You go to LA, you have a cap. So there are all these things that are iconic, in the world stage that a lot of people even here, still wear those type of iconic destination promoting type of clothing or memorabilia.
Yeah.
So I think there's a gap there. You're quite right. And I hope there are entrepreneurs that are listening.
Yeah.
That we don't have enough, memorabilia that showcases various sections of the country. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to say there's a shirt that says South Africa.
Yeah.
It's another thing that says Joburg. It's another thing that says Mamelodi. It's another thing.
I am Joburg.
Exactly.
When you start personalizing, I had Mamelodi.
Exactly.
Then that becomes different from just saying Mamelodi.
Exactly. So those type of things that I think there's a space for that.
Uh-huh.
We're seeing this with campaigns that, we saw people now wearing lots of T-shirts that has to do with the Constitution.
Yes.
That people are adopting those things.
Yeah.
Which is good. So what we need to do is to make sure that we streamline those things, get entrepreneurs, and make sure that when the buses are doing tours of union building, tours of many different places, whether it's Newtown and whether it's other townships that are in and around Gauteng, they are able to come back with something that says, I was at this place.
Yeah. And
I think that we need to prioritize that.
Yeah.
And I think that, it will be fitting to even talk a little bit about something like that.
Yeah.
When we talk about, at the conference on the...
Absolutely.
On the second day of the conference, on the Friday of the conference, we're going to be talking about, small business.
Absolutely.
And how do we make sure that we support those small businesses? Not just by words, by money.
And for me, that brings in the role of local associations, whether it's tourism association, whether it's business chambers and the like, and specifically to leverage tourism. And like you were saying, here is the G20 in a few months. What are those authentic things that we want delegates, the media, companies, persons, advanced teams to leave Johannesburg and South Africa with? Mm-hmm. Apart from something that's written G20 South Africa, every conference, every summit has that. But what will be out there, and what becomes the role of the TBCSA working with local associations, and probably opening up the federation to accommodate local associations that are advocating for this in a manner that creates uniformity without stempling the local authenticity, because Kaya Licha will be different from Shoshanguve, will be different from Pulukwani. Therefore, you can't have applied the same brush.
Yeah.
But the principles remains around local beneficiations when TBCSA and South African tourism are out on road shows, and the imagery that represents South Africa is the imagery that represents the actual local experiences. You're talking about Sofe, you were talking about Soweto, but apart from how Soweto has marketed itself through its heroic struggles and the tenacity, I still don't think there is enough that goes out there that formal tourism businesses are adopting. I don't even think Boys of Soweto outfit stuff that is out there. The tourism sector regards it as its marketing memorabilia.
Yeah. So we need to love the things that we do as a country.
Yeah.
And we need to take advantage of the different cultures that we have as a country and different landscapes that we have as a country. And we need to take advantage of that in an economic way so that we're able to get more out of it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what you and I are in. You know, in the economy, which is a visitor economy, as you call it, where we want every visitor that comes into the country and every visitor that travels their own country, how do we make sure that we stay in their pockets?
Yeah.
But in order for us to stay in their pockets, we need to show value.
Yeah.
And they need to see authentic things that are attached to where they are in that local environment.
Yeah.
There is nothing that stops anyone from entrepreneurial point of view to really come up with great ideas.
Yeah.
You know, that can enhance a township, enhance a town.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not even coming up with a new idea. It's copying an idea that has worked somewhere else.
Absolutely.
And bring it into the local environment.
Give it a local flavor.
Give it local flavor and make sure that it gets implemented.
Yeah.
I think that in South Africa, we've got so many beautiful towns, but nothing happens in those beautiful towns. So it would be nice to go to a town.
Yeah.
And you know what? If I find myself, in the Vaal.
Yeah.
I know every last Saturday of the month,
there's a market.
At this time, there's this market. Apparently, the vibe is good.
Yeah.
And I really want to experience that vibe.
Yeah.
We need to do more of that. If they are happening, we need to put the local guys from the local structures of tourism. We have to pull it up so that we start to have this calendar that says, hey, by the way, if you come here, this is what happens. In these days, with the advancement of technology, to advertise these things, it's simpler.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't cost that much money because of the social media platforms that we have.
That's great. You can imagine that on a boat in the Vaal with the market, with the clothes that are there being showcased. So for me, what becomes central is then how that, exact and mainstreamed. So that it doesn't just become a suggestion or a reflection that we're waiting for entrepreneurs watching or listening to us to take it up. When they take it up, they should be able to find an ecosystem that appreciates them and that guides them in a manner in which they should be able to operate the same way the Tourism Business Council and organized business support hotel chain groups or support car rentals. And for me, it takes us to the next point around, and I saw this in action, Tshifhiwa, and you became the voice of the sector as you always do, but that got heightened during the pandemic when now I guess people started realizing the actual ripple effect of tourism. When there were no international arrivals. Therefore, the accommodations need to work, happen. The transportation needs to. I remember there were the bubbles. You remember the soccer PSL created the bubbles. And because of the infrastructure in Gauteng, the PSL bubble that time came into Gauteng. And the teams had to stay in a hotel. There was somebody that had to cook for them. And the team goes into the field with the warm-up skippers and then they change the jerseys, they go. So that kit cleaning was a laundry service. So that's how the sector kept. And now the hotel started running with the soccer teams, all the 16 teams of the league in the space. The bus drivers were recalled. Those that were cutting the grass with the lawnmowers were recalled to come and maintain the facilities. The nurses and the health workers, some of them were quarantined into specific hotel sites. So I saw Lebo's backpackers, tuk-tuks, may his soul continue to rest in peace, going out to give food packages to the elderly with those tuk-tuks. So I saw the tourism value chain in action. And when the lockdowns were to be announced, the tourism sector got consultant. We're making submissions. We developed a recovery plan that got mainstreamed. The vaccine rollout was also extended to the frontline staff in the value chain of the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry. I thought we will then be able to leverage that and ensure that post the pandemic, that becomes the standard practice. So that you don't have a G20 and a tourism is a by the way. Or you have the Soweto Derby and a tourism is a by the way. Will you say at that time we exerted leadership as the tourism sector? And where did we drop the ball and what can we do to reinforce this? And to what extent are the current challenges we are seeing in the tourism sector, especially that is government supported, which forms a very important part of the tourism mantra of private sector-led, government supported, community-based, and labor intensive. We'll say to what extent has that dropping the ball, if it is we drop the ball, that are also creating the type of situation and paralysis that I don't think is good for the markets and is good for the sector, especially as we move into the spring and summer period, which is our feasting season.
Yeah. So you're quite right. We did a lot of collaborative work during COVID.
Yeah.
And a lot of people realized that they are in tourism.
Yes.
And they realize it indirectly.
Yeah.
I remember working with the rugby union.
Yeah.
We work with SAFA, and others, to make sure that, we can reopen.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, even the large food companies.
Yeah.
Because when people don't go to hotels, the large food companies that have large factories,
they can't distribute.
Who do you distribute the food to?
Yeah.
If the cruises are not on, who do you distribute to?
Yeah.
And then it goes back to, if you're a farmer and you're planting to send to that large company that distribute food,
100.
Who do you distribute the food to?
Yeah.
So it goes to the farm worker, who is in a particular farm that feeds into the tourism system.
100.
So the understanding of the ecosystem of tourism, I think, a lot of people got to understand the impact of tourism into the economy of the country. And if tourism doesn't work, there's a whole lot more people that are affected. I mean, you've got over 1.5 million people that are employed directly and indirectly, which is larger than agriculture.
Absolutely.
And the numbers are growing. We may be on 2 million very soon.
Yeah.
So if we do the right things, we should be able to get there. So, the main question, did we drop the ball?
Yeah.
Why are all these players that we're working with now, some of them are in their corners and doing things, the way they were doing in the past.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we need to start to look at the governance structures that we have.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of things that are happening in the Department of Sports. You've got a lot of things that are happening in the culture side of things. You've got a lot of things that are happening in tourism, and there may be others that are happening. How do we get together and make sure that, all the cultural things that we want to do, all the museums that are out there, we incorporate ourselves in a way that, it works.
Yeah.
So I think that there are these silos, within ourselves and these departments that creates a problem. So we've got to fix that.
So are we envisaging, Tshifhiwa, an internal roadshow? I'm trying to get, and take advantage of you being here. I want to commit you to specific things. I know you still need to go back, but are we envisaging a situation of a possible internal roadshows?
It would be good.
That revisit those structures and arrangements the same way we do to outbound markets, where we reinforce our message and they're going back to the likes of SAFA, to the likes of the PSL, to the likes of SARU, to the likes of the Agricultural Union, and say in the light of the tariffs, maybe we might be distributing regional, and maybe we might actually even be using the distribution of this big food production company to leverage on the packaging that include a message to visit South Africa and a QR code of a downloading of the Visit Gauteng app, wrapping the maize that get distributed to Tanzania.
Yeah.
And to your point about how you get into destination marketing, but I guess on behalf of the sector, we're expecting that leadership. Yeah. And am I expecting too much to expect the TBCSA to lead us in revisiting that type of a scenario?
I think it's a scenario that needs to be visited. Because we can't keep doing the same things over and over again when we have targets that are big. So we need to get to doing something different.
Yeah.
And we've got to work together.
Yeah.
We've been talking about the domestic campaign in our space to say, how do we leverage what's going on? How do we leverage sports? How do we leverage, culture and many other things that happens in this country? There are so many things that happens that are unknown in the mainstream of us as South African. Before we even get to the visitors coming from outside of the country, how do we make sure that those things are known? And how do we lead in those spaces? So yes, the answer is yes. We've got to have our own reflection to say, are we working efficiently, together? And may I go further and say, and there's a question that you ask that I think it relates to prioritizing tourism.
Yeah.
Understanding the return on investment in tourism. And understanding when does the return on investment comes in.
Yield. Yeah.
And the consistency that we need to have. I see, provinces, not Gauteng, other provinces saying that, we don't even have a budget for marketing.
Yeah.
I see metros that says we don't even have the budget for marketing. And when you start to have a situation where, the budget that's supposed to be put into the marketing, where the return on investment can be felt on the ground, is now absorbed into other things.
Yeah.
And I made these remarks in one of the meetings last week and say it feels like sometimes that the human resources line item is eating the marketing line item. You find the human resources keeps going up. The marketing goes down, including infrastructure, budgets starts to go down. So we're going up from human resources down on other things that we need to do. Where is going to be the return on investment?
Because you need to pump demand to create sustainability. Then we have a budget, human resource budget blowing out. And I guess, Tshifhiwa, there lies an opportunity to, and I know one of the avenues you have at the TBCSA is a collaborative fund.
Yes.
Therefore, in my view, a collaborative fund also need to resemble that collaboration on the other side. So collaboration can't just comes from the TBCSA that says we want. So if I have 5 rand as a TBCSA and I'm running a collaborative fund, I'm expecting 5 rand from the agricultural sector, 5 rand from the football sector and sports, and then we put together, and then that's how the collaborative funds then gets elevated. So this roadshow, this call to action that I'm challenging the TBCSA to do, and how can that be activated, for example, through the collaborative fund? Therefore, you are not just putting this in theory, you're putting something on the table, and you are also urging others to come through, to collaboratively go into the market and rekindle that spirit of working together to mainstream tourism.
No, absolutely. And that's what we call for. Collaborative, efforts are very important. And when we work together, we get more done. And we've always encouraged everyone to say, if there are initiatives that are groundbreaking, that will change the lives of the people on the ground, that will enhance the industry, that will create new bars, things that we may not have seen, we invite those entrepreneurs to be able to approach us and say, here are the things that we believe are going to create something that's unique and different. And that's how we can collaborate. And that's how, we can be able to get things done. And we always say to everyone, it must benefit the people.
Absolutely.
It must benefit the communities. It must benefit the industry. It's not necessarily for self-interest.
So maybe and at Visit Gauteng, we take that challenge and we will coordinate all the efforts towards appreciating the role Gauteng plays in the visitor economy, in the country as a whole. So when you say starts here, that's part of the activities where we take advantage of proximity to you, but to create prototypes that could be replicated across the country.
Absolutely.
So that's the leadership and thought leadership issue we commit to, so that everybody start playing their part. And will we see, and I saw the Trevor ad, and you spoke about the Trevor ad earlier on, and I saw the Trevor ad at a time was a call to action, but also showcasing our exceptionalism, but also reminding ourselves and the world that we actually have good.
Yeah.
Will you say there also lies, especially with this collaborative fund, an opportunity to actually turn that ad into a series of specific elements that can say, it might not even be a Trevor, it might be a black coffee, it might be our Grammy Award winning, it might be the Lion King, Lebo M's of this world that have a global influence. It might be the Monaco Crown Prince, that from South Africa. It might be Charlize Theron. I can go on and on, about these. So a series, that started with Trevor, that now takes a specific element. It could be Siya Kolisi, as did with SA Tourism, that looks at that it could be a Benny McCarthy, that then exert a call to action to the sector, that specific sector. It could be the mining magnates that leverage that specific place, that contributes to that. All of a sudden, we have a 12-part series that started with Trevor, that looked at where Trevor goes and what you didn't know about the country. Yeah. When will this fit into this collaborative fund and collaborative projects that you are looking at? And is it something that we can explore?
Yeah, definitely. Look, the couple of things that we're looking at moving forward, I think it's important that our content is fresh.
Yeah.
Having the challenge that I've said that, there may be metros and there may be provinces that can't even shoot the content that can be put into the world stage. And it's something that we're looking at very closely to say, what if we shoot a content for each province?
Yeah.
Fresh content. We make it available to everyone.
Yeah.
So that you can go in there, you can do whatever you need to do, you can manipulate it and put your logos and whatnot. But we have a fresh content that otherwise we don't have. Or we don't have the up-to-date, content.
Absolutely.
So it's something that we're looking at. Great. Yes, the prominent South Africans are quite key in making sure that the world looks at us differently.
Yeah.
We can't be known only for some of the not so good things that we may have as a destination, because everybody else in their own country have, certain things that are less desirable about their own country. But there's more good than bad in our country. And I think that we need the prominent South Africans to also lend a hand in making sure that, the country is looked at positively for the sake of tourism, sake of investment, and everything else in between that is going to be good for the country. So I think that's a challenge that all of us, should have. And I think I was taking it, I think it was at Nedbank head office, and I said to the guys, imagine if all the top CEOs and all the ministers, once a month, you write a good story about this country, and you publish a good story.
Yeah.
Every minister in the cabinet, every MEC,
CEO, every managing director,
every money, all writes a good story about this country, and we publish it.
And now the communities will join in. Students will join in. And I guess as we move towards the wrap-up, for you, our viewers, those that are listening to us, as we celebrate the month of September as Tourism and Heritage Month, we have something exciting for you. And here is a quiz that we want you to send an answer to Gauteng Live at gauteng.net, Gauteng Live at gauteng.net, of these World Heritage Sites: the Vredefort Dome, Cradle of Humankind, and Mapungubwe. Which one is found in the Free State Province? Let me repeat. Of these World Heritage Sites that we have in South Africa, the Vredefort Dome, Mapungubwe, and the Cradle of Humankind. Which one is found in the Free State Province? Send your answer to Gauteng Live at gauteng.net. And this month of Tourism Month and Heritage Month, you stand a chance to win some of the goodies. access to some of the events, and access to some of our fabulous market. Once again, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the information that we provide. As we wrap up, Tshifhiwa, and we're talking about Tourism and Heritage Month, briefly, what will the TBCSA be rolling out throughout this month? I know there's a big World Tourism Day celebration on the 27th of September, which Gauteng has the pleasure of hosting at the iconic Constitution Hill. But what are some of those activities and focus that you will be advocating and pioneering?
Well, we do have the Tourism Leadership Conference happening from the 17th to the 19th of this month of September. We have it at Sun City. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It's going to be different.
Yeah.
It's going to be well attended.
So long as you promise you're not cutting that bush activity, which I told you was world-class, turning the entire bush into a world-class event. Is it still there?
Well, we try to do different things every year. So we're going to do something different this year. We try to showcase different experiences. Last year, we brought Amapiano to the bush.
Yeah.
And that was quite interesting. We'll do something this year. I think we're going to the beach.
Okay.
Something like that. So it's always something. So the social events are always there. And also they're there to remind us that tourism is fun.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of things that are happening, and it sounds like, we have sucked fun out of tourism.
Yeah.
Tourism is about fun.
Yeah.
When people travel, they want to enjoy. Yeah. They want to live smiling. It's about entertainment. It's about the goodness of life.
Yeah.
That's what we're about.
Exactly. And I guess these issues that we're reflecting on takes the spotlight away from the actual real tourism issues.
Precisely. So we forget about, when we talk about leisure tourism, it's about fun. When we talk about business tourism, it's about making sure that the business leaders do what they're supposed to do, but at the end, bit of fun as well.
After dark program.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you talk about the travel agencies and the travel management companies, is to make sure that you facilitate the movement of people. You talk about airlines, movement of people. You talk about car rentals, movement of people. You talk about the lodges, hotels, and everything else. It's the experience, the food, the chefs, and everybody else that's there. You talk about the hunters, it's the experience. All these things, and ultimately, people, when they travel, whether it's for business, leisure, or otherwise, or for conferencing, is to make sure that at the end of the day, there are programs that are fun and people are able to relax.
Absolutely.
So tourism should always be fun. I think that, having worked only in the tourism industry for 25 plus years, I think we're losing that flair.
Absolutely.
Of being the industry that, when people are sitting on the outside, this industry should be a marketeer's dream.
And should be, and having a country and a destination like South Africa, where possibilities are endless, exactly. Where exceptionalism is part of our DNA. Yeah. Surely this could be achieved. As we wrap up, Tshifhiwa, your favorite traditional food as we celebrate Heritage Month, and in Gauteng specifically.
Oh, man.
And one song that, in your view, represent the tenacity, the energy, and the zeal of this golden province. We are trying to compile a playlist of Gauteng songs that we could incorporate, and will approach you. We're doing the gaming and all these other projects that could be the soundtracks of some of these projects that we are doing to support the creative sector and showcase the interface between the creative sector and tourism. So in your view, that one song that represent the energy of Gauteng, and your favorite Gauteng food joint and the traditional food you like.
Oh, well, the song Via Orlando.
Which one? Dr. Malinga one? Via Orlando.
The remix, man.
Yes.
So that's the song.
Yeah.
You talk about, we grew up on that song.
Yeah, I know. And there's a color there. There's the energy. There's a kick boboza.
Yeah. So it's a good. So for me, it represents how. I mean, there are many songs.
Yes. Yeah.
and there are songs that have been done about Boipatong.
Absolutely, by Brenda Fassie. Yes.
By Brenda Fassie and many others. But I think that's the song for me. The food, man, I'm a street food type of a guy.
Yes. I saw you licking your fingers there by Sakumzi the other day.
Yeah, I'm a street food type of a guy. Yeah. So, even for my lunch breaks, I go to the street. So I usually go to the Centurion Taxi Rank.
Okay.
I always believe that the food is fresh.
Yeah.
Because it's slaughtered and it's cooked.
Yeah.
And you enjoy it. And that's it. So I go to Centurion Taxi Rank. And I also go to this factory place where I've been going there for years. For lunch, we call it Mam Changan. Okay. That's what they call it there.
Yeah,
I've known the lady who runs the place for years, and I've always sort of given a little bit of a business advice to say, hey, do things this way, shift your prices like this and that to make.
So it's an integral part of you.
Yeah, so it's part of me. So to make sure, and I always ask about the sustainability of business, and also when the competition comes, hey, change this, change that. So I'm a street food type of guy. I like to eat my hard body chicken, pap, and some cabbage on the side and some chakalaka. That's my go-to food. I'm bad at going to formal restaurants.
Wow, I guess that's a mouthful. And as we welcome the month of September as Tourism Month and Heritage Month, we will surely be kicking away with that kick boboza of Dr. Malinga in that Via Orlando. All the jackets, all the big layers of clothes as we welcome spring. Don't forget to subscribe on our channel. Don't forget also to download the Visit Gauteng mobile app. We're available at I Love Gauteng on Facebook, at Visit Gauteng on Instagram, on Twitter, and on TikTok. We also have the Visit Gauteng What's on G magazine that is available for download to check what is happening on Gauteng. That has been another fascinating episode of Gauteng Lifve. Tshifhiwa, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Tshifhiwa. And as we wrap up until the next episode, second round.